The Misunderstanding Ambassador Krell'Thar of the Velcarian Empire stared at the quadruped creature with undisguised contempt. The animal, a dog as humans called it, sat attentively beside Dr. Maya Chen, its brown eyes watching the alien diplomat with unnerving intelligence. "And you claim this beast is sentient?" Krell'Thar asked, his translucent neck frills fluttering with skepticism. Dr. Chen sighed, stroking the golden retriever's head. "Not in the way you're thinking, Ambassador. Archer isn't sentient by Galactic Confederation standards, but he possesses emotional intelligence, problem-solving abilities, and forms deep bonds with humans." Precisely my point. Krell'Thar's voice oscillated between high and low tones, indicating amusement in Velcarian communication. "Your species wastes resources and emotional energy on non-sentient creatures. It's primitive." Maya had been the Interspecies Relations Director at the United Earth Embassy for 5 years. In that time, she dealt with countless cultural misunderstandings, but the concept of pets remained one of the most difficult to explain to other species. "Ambassador, I arranged this meeting to help prevent another diplomatic incident like what happened last week," she said firmly. "Understanding human-animal relationships is crucial to your continued work here on Earth." Krell'Thar's silvery skin darkened slightly, a sign of annoyance. The human military officer overreacted. "I merely suggested that having non-sentient creatures in diplomatic settings was inappropriate. You suggested that her service dog would be better used as protein rations for your delegation." Maya corrected, keeping her voice even despite her frustration. For a human veteran who relies on her service animal for managing post-traumatic stress, that comment was deeply offensive. "Your species' emotionality continues to baffle me," Krell'Thar said. "The creature cannot understand language. It would not have known it was being threatened." Maya leaned forward, but Sergeant Torres understood, and her bond with Rex is not just emotional. It's vital to her well-being. This bond is something your people need to understand if you're going to maintain diplomatic relations with Earth. Perhaps, Krell'Thar conceded reluctantly, but why not use advanced neural implants or therapeutic nanobots like the rest of the civilized galaxy? Your attachment to these animals seems inefficient. Maya smiled. "Not everything valuable can be measured by efficiency, Ambassador." The door of the conference room slid open and Director Abrams entered. A tall man with salt and pepper hair and the composed demeanor of a career diplomat, he nodded respectfully to Krell'Thar before turning to Maya. "Dr. Chen, the Council has reviewed the incident. They're concerned about the Velcarian delegation's understanding of human-animal relationships." He handed her a datapad. "They've approved your proposal for a cultural immersion program." Krell'Thar's frills extended fully, a sign of alarm. "What program?" Maya couldn't help but smile. "Ambassador, you're going to spend the next week with one of our canine units to observe human-animal partnerships firsthand." "That's absurd. I am a senior diplomatic representative of the Velcarian Empire. I cannot waste time observing primitive interspecies relationships." Director Abrams cleared his throat. "The Velcarian High Council has already approved the program, Ambassador. They believe it will prevent future misunderstandings." Krell'Thar's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession. "My government agreed to this without consulting me." "The incident with Sergeant Torres made the news broadcasts across 3 sectors," Maya explained. "The High Council is concerned about public perception. This is an opportunity to demonstrate Velcarian commitment to cultural understanding." The alien diplomat's skin cycled through several colors before settling on a dull gray of resignation. "Very well, but I will not touch these creatures, nor will I participate in their care rituals." "You won't have to," Maya assured him, scratching behind Archer's ears as the dog leaned contentedly against her leg. "You'll simply observe. We'll start tomorrow at the Northeast Regional Canine Training Center. You'll meet various working dogs and their handlers." "Working dogs?" Krell'Thar's frills perked slightly with reluctant curiosity. "Yes," Maya nodded. "Dogs that serve alongside humans in various capacities: search and rescue, law enforcement, medical detection, therapy services. Their abilities complement our own in ways technology cannot replicate." "I find that difficult to believe," Krell'Thar said dismissively. Archer, as if sensing the challenge, stood up and approached the alien diplomat. Before Maya could call him back, the dog sat directly in front of Krell'Thar and extended his paw. The ambassador stared at the offered limb with confusion. "What does it want?" "He's greeting you," Maya explained. "In dog language, he's being polite. You can shake his paw if you'd like." "Shake it? No, thank you." Krell'Thar leaned away, but his eyes remained fixed on the patient dog. After a moment of awkward silence, he asked, "Does it always do this?" "Only with people he thinks need a friend," Maya replied with a small smile. Krell'Thar's silence spoke volumes. The Northeast Regional K-9 Training Center sprawled across 50 acres of varied terrain, open fields, wooded areas, concrete structures designed to simulate urban environments, and specialized training facilities. As Maya led Krell'Thar through the main building, the alien diplomat walked stiffly, his posture betraying his discomfort. "You'll observe several different teams today," Maya explained. "Each demonstrates a different aspect of human canine partnerships. In the first training yard, a woman in a search and rescue uniform worked with a medium-sized dog with a black and tan coat. The animal dashed across a rubble pile, stopped, and began barking frantically. "Found someone," the handler called out. A trainer emerged from a hidden compartment beneath the rubble. "Good work, Sierra. 7 minutes to locate a victim in unstable terrain." Maya turned to Krell'Thar. "That's a search and rescue team. Sierra can detect human scent under debris, through snow, or underwater. She can cover ground much faster than human rescuers alone and can access spaces too small for humans." Krell'Thar observed with clinical detachment. "Your scanning technology should be able to accomplish the same task." "Technology fails," Maya countered. "Batteries died, signals get blocked, equipment breaks. Dogs don't stop working when the power goes out." They moved to the next area where a small beagle meticulously sniffed a line of luggage. "This is Rusty." Maya introduced the dog, who had stopped at a particular suitcase and sat down, looking expectantly at his handler. "He's trained to detect agricultural products, preventing harmful invasive species from entering protected ecosystems." "Interesting," Krell'Thar admitted reluctantly. "Though I notice you use mechanical scanners at spaceports rather than these animals." "We use both," Maya explained, "different tools for different situations. The dogs catch things the scanners miss, and vice versa." Throughout the morning, they observed dogs trained for various purposes, detecting narcotics, finding explosives, herding livestock, and even monitoring the vital signs of humans with medical conditions. By midday, Krell'Thar's dismissive attitude had softened slightly into grudging curiosity. Over lunch in the facility's cafeteria, he asked questions that revealed he was beginning to understand, if not yet appreciate, the complexity of human-animal partnerships. "These animals require substantial resources," he noted. "Food, medical care, training. Is the return on investment truly worth it?" "Absolutely," Maya replied, "but you're still thinking in purely economic terms. The relationship between humans and working dogs goes far beyond practical utility." As if on cue, the cafeteria doors opened and a woman in an army uniform entered, accompanied by a large German shepherd wearing a service dog vest. Maya waved them over. "Ambassador, I'd like you to meet Sergeant Emma Reyes and her service dog Atlas. You'll be observing them for the next part of your cultural immersion." Krell'Thar's frills flattened against his neck, a sign of unease. "Observing them? Where exactly?" Sergeant Reyes, a woman with sharp eyes and the composed demeanor of someone accustomed to command, answered directly. "At my home, sir. The council thought you should experience the day-to-day reality of a human-canine partnership." The alien diplomat looked to Maya with all 4 eyes wide. "You expect me to live with one of these creatures?" "Just for 3 days," Maya assured him. "It's the best way to understand what you're calling an emotional investment." Krell'Thar's skin cycled through several colors before settling on the gray of resignation. "The things I do for diplomatic relations," he muttered. As they left the training center, Maya watched Atlas walk attentively beside Sergeant Reyes, the bond between them evident in every synchronized step. She hoped Krell'Thar would see it too, eventually. What the ambassador didn't know was that Emma Reyes wasn't just any handler. She was one of Earth's most decorated K-9 officers, with Atlas being her second service dog after her first, Rex, had been killed in the line of duty, saving her life. If anyone could show Krell'Thar the true meaning of the human-animal bond, it would be her. The learning. Sergeant Emma Reyes lived in a modest home on the outskirts of New Portland. The neighborhood was a mixed community of humans and the handful of alien species that had chosen to settle on Earth following first contact 15 years earlier. As Emma's personal transport pulled into the driveway, Krell'Thar surveyed the surroundings with thinly veiled discomfort. "Your dwelling is smaller than I anticipated for a military officer," he observed. Emma shut off the engine. "I prefer to be close to nature. Atlas needs space to run." She opened the door and Atlas leaped out, immediately assuming a watchful position beside her. "Does the animal always maintain this vigilance?" Krell'Thar asked as they walked toward the house. "Atlas is trained to," Emma replied, her voice carrying the slight edge it always did when someone referred to her partner as the animal. "He's a service dog, but he's also a retired military K-9. He performed 3 tours in the Martian uprising before being rematched with me." The creature was in combat. Krell'Thar's frills flexed with surprise. "He saved 27 lives by detecting improvised explosive devices," Emma said matter-of-factly, unlocking the front door. "More than earned his retirement." Inside, the home was simple but comfortable. Large windows overlooked a fenced backyard with a mix of open grass and trees. Atlas trotted to a water bowl in the kitchen, drank deeply, then returned to Emma's side. "I have prepared a guest room for you," Emma said, gesturing to a hallway. "The council mentioned your species requires higher humidity, so I've installed a moisture generator." Krell'Thar seemed taken aback by the consideration. "Thank you. That's unexpectedly thoughtful." Emma shrugged. "Cultural understanding goes both ways, Ambassador." After showing Krell'Thar to his room, Emma explained the schedule for the next few days. "I'm on call with the emergency response unit, but otherwise we'll follow our normal routine. Atlas and I run in the morning, then training exercises. I work remotely in the afternoon." "And what am I expected to do during this time?" Krell'Thar asked. "Observe. Ask questions. Learn," Emma replied. "Isn't that the point of this exercise?" The first evening passed uneventfully. Emma prepared a meal compatible with Velcarian dietary needs, and they ate in relative silence, broken occasionally by Atlas shifting position or sighing contentedly at Emma's feet. After dinner, Emma settled on the couch with a book. Atlas immediately jumped up beside her, curling into a large furry ball with his head on her lap. She absently stroked his fur as she read. "You allow it under furniture?" Krell'Thar asked from where he perched stiffly in an armchair. "He's family," Emma said simply, not looking up from her book. "Family." Krell'Thar repeated the word as if testing an unfamiliar concept. "Yet you command it. Make it work for you." Emma closed her book. "Our relationship isn't about command and obedience, Ambassador. It's about partnership and trust. Atlas chooses to work with me because we've built that trust." "Animals don't make choices," Krell'Thar countered. "They respond to conditioning and instinct." "Maybe," Emma conceded. "But there's more to it than that. When we're in the field, I trust Atlas with my life, and he trusts me with his. That's not just training. It's a bond." The conversation might have continued, but Emma's communication device chimed. She checked the message and immediately straightened. "We have a situation. The Blackridge mining operation has experienced a cave-in. Multiple casualties, humans and aliens trapped. We're being called in." She was already moving, gathering equipment from a cabinet near the door. Atlas was instantly alert, watching her every move. "You're going now? At this hour?" Krell'Thar asked, clearly surprised by this sudden shift. "That's the job," Emma replied, attaching a specialized vest to Atlas. "You can stay here if you prefer." Krell'Thar hesitated only briefly. "No, I will observe as instructed." Within minutes, they were in Emma's transport, speeding toward the emergency response center. Atlas sat calmly in the back, seemingly unfazed by the sudden activity. "The mining operation is a joint venture between Earth and Proxima Centauri," Emma explained as she drove. "They're extracting rare minerals used in quantum computing." "I'm familiar with the operation," Krell'Thar said. "My cousin works there as a geological consultant." Emma glanced at him sharply. "Your cousin? Is he on site now?" "Yes." Krell'Thar's voice carried an unfamiliar note, concern. "Zephyr joined the project 3 months ago." "I'm sure he's fine," Emma said, though her tone lacked conviction. "They have safety protocols." At the emergency response center, organized chaos reigned. Teams of human and alien first responders gathered equipment while commanders coordinated rescue efforts. Emma reported to a stern-looking woman with captain's insignia. "Reyes, good. We need Atlas's pathfinding abilities. The cave-in has compromised the main tunnel, and we're getting conflicting readings on life signs." "What caused the collapse?" Emma asked, accepting a data tablet with the mine layout. "Unknown. Possibly natural seismic activity, possibly equipment failure." The captain noticed Krell'Thar. "Who's this?" "Ambassador Krell'Thar from the Velcarian Empire," Emma explained. "He's observing our K9 program." The captain didn't look pleased but nodded curtly. "Stay out of the way, Ambassador." Transport leaves in 5 minutes. As they boarded the shuttle, Krell'Thar found himself seated beside Emma and Atlas. The dog seemed to sense the tension, pressing himself against Emma's leg in what appeared to be a gesture of reassurance. "Your animal understands something is wrong?" Krell'Thar asked. "He reads my body language, heart rate, even subtle changes in my scent," Emma explained, checking Atlas' equipment one final time. "He knows we're heading into a dangerous situation. Yet he shows no fear." Emma scratched behind Atlas's ears. "He trusts me, and he knows his job is important." The shuttle landed at the mining site 30 minutes later. The area was illuminated by harsh emergency lights casting long shadows across the rugged terrain. Dust still billowed from the main entrance to the underground complex. The rescue coordinator, a grizzled man with the insignia of the Interplanetary Mining Guild, briefed the teams. "We have 23 personnel unaccounted for. 15 humans, 5 Centaurians, 2 Velcarians, and 1 Andorran. The last communication from inside reported toxic gas in the lower levels and unstable support structures throughout." Krell'Thar stepped forward. One of the missing Velcarians is my cousin, Zevthar. Do you have his last known location? The coordinator checked his data. He was in the northeastern tunnel, level 3, conducting a geological survey when the collapse occurred. Emma studied the mine schematic. That's one of the deepest sections. Atlas and I will head there first. Negative, the coordinator said firmly. We clear from the entrance inward, methodically. No team goes directly to level 3 until we've secured the upper passages. Emma nodded reluctantly. Understood. As the teams prepared to enter the mine, Krell'Thar approached Emma. Your commander denied your request to search for my cousin immediately. Standard protocol, Emma explained, fitting Atlas with a specialized breathing apparatus and protective boots. We have to ensure the rescue teams don't become victims themselves. Yet you seem dissatisfied with this decision. Emma paused in her preparations. Every minute counts in situations like this, but I understand the reasoning. Atlas whined softly, pawing at Emma's leg. She immediately focused on him. What is it, boy? The dog's attention was fixed on a secondary entrance to the mine, a smaller access tunnel several hundred meters from the main operation. He's alerting to something, Emma said, her voice sharpening. She called to the coordinator. Sir, Atlas is indicating the service tunnel. There might be survivors there. The coordinator frowned. That tunnel should be sealed during operations. It's not on our primary search grid. Nevertheless, Atlas is picking up something, Emma insisted. Permission to investigate? After a moment's hesitation, the coordinator nodded. Take Team 3 with you. But be careful. That tunnel hasn't been reinforced like the main passages. As they approached the service tunnel, Krell'Thar followed, his scientific curiosity temporarily overriding his skepticism. How can the animal detect survivors through solid rock? Scent travels in ways you might not expect, Emma said, watching Atlas intently. Air currents mimic cracks in the stone. And Atlas isn't just smelling, he's listening for vibrations, changes in air pressure, dozens of subtle cues humans can't detect. At the tunnel entrance, Atlas became increasingly agitated, pulling in his lead and whining urgently. He's found something, Emma said, signaling the rest of Team 3. Let's move in. The narrow passage descended steeply into darkness, illuminated only by the team's lights and the glowing safety strips on their uniforms. The air grew thick with dust and an acrid chemical smell that made Krell'Thar's sensitive respiratory membranes burn. After descending for several minutes, Atlas suddenly froze, his posture rigid with alertness. Then he began to bark, sharp, commanding sounds that echoed through the tunnel. He's found survivors, Emma announced, quickening her pace. Around the next bend, it discovered 3 miners, 2 humans and a Centaurian, huddled in a small maintenance alcove. They were dusty and injured but alive. As the medical team tended to the survivors, one of the human miners grabbed Emma's arm. There are more, he gasped. Level 3, northeastern tunnel. The whole section collapsed after the initial quake. Emma exchanged a look with the team leader. That's where the ambassador's cousin is supposed to be. The team leader's expression was grim. The main access to level 3 is completely blocked. We need to clear tons of debris. What about through the ventilation system? Emma suggested, studying the mine schematic on her data tablet. Atlas could navigate it. Too dangerous, the team leader said firmly. Those shafts weren't designed for human access, and they're likely compromised by the collapse. Krell'Thar, who had been silently observing until now, stepped forward. But the animal could go. Emma hesitated. Possibly. But I won't send Atlas in alone. We work as a team. The ambassador studied her face. You'd risk your life for your animal? Or is it that you would risk your animal for my cousin? Neither, Emma replied. We would risk ourselves for those in danger. That's our job. Before the conversation could continue, a second tremor shook the tunnel, sending cascades of dust and small rocks showering down. The team leader immediately activated his communicator. All teams evacuate immediately. The structure is becoming unstable. As they hurry the rescued miners for the surface, Krell'Thar noticed Emma lagging behind, her attention focused on Atlas. The dog had stopped, looking back down the tunnel with unmistakable purpose. Sergeant Reyes, the team leader, called, "Move out now." Emma knelt beside Atlas, her expression torn. "What is it, boy? What do you hear?" The dog whined, looking at Emma and then back down the tunnel. Understanding dawned on Krell'Thar. He senses more survivors. "Yes," Emma confirmed, "and he wants to find them." In that moment, watching the silent communication between human and dog, Krell'Thar began to understand what Dr. Chen had tried to explain. This wasn't mere training or conditioning. This was something else entirely. The transformation. All personnel evacuate immediately. The coordinator's voice crackled through the communicators. Structural integrity failing throughout the complex. Emma stood frozen, watching Atlas as he stared intently down the darkened tunnel. The dog whined again, more urgently. "There's someone alive down there," she said, her voice barely audible over the rumbling of the unstable mine. "Sergeant, we have direct orders," the team leader reminded her. The entire section could collapse at any moment. Krell'Thar looked between Emma and Atlas, then down the tunnel where his cousin might still be trapped. The conflict visible on the human's face triggered an unexpected moment of recognition. Velcarians might express emotions differently, but the struggle between duty and compassion was universal. "Go," Emma suddenly told the team leader. "Get these survivors to safety. Atlas and I will check the ventilation shaft." "That's a direct violation of orders," the team leader protested. "Then report me," Emma replied, already checking Atlas's protective gear. "But I'm not leaving while Atlas says there are survivors." The team leader hesitated, then nodded grimly. "You have 15 minutes before the next support beams are projected to fail. Not a second more." As the rescue team escorted the survivors toward the surface, Krell'Thar remained, his 4 eyes fixed on Emma. "You should go with them, Ambassador," she said without looking up from adjusting Atlas' equipment. "My cousin is still down there," Krell'Thar replied. "I will accompany you." Emma finally met his gaze. "It's dangerous. The ventilation shaft wasn't designed for someone your size." "I am more resilient to the toxic gases than you are," Krell'Thar countered. "And I can see in wavelengths your species cannot. I may be useful." After a moment's consideration, Emma nodded. "Stay behind me. Follow my instructions exactly, and if I tell you to leave, you leave. Understood?" "Understood." They moved deeper into the mine, guided by Atlas's unwavering focus. The ventilation shaft was a narrow tube barely wide enough for a human to crawl through. For Krell'Thar, with his broader shoulder structure, it would be an extremely tight fit. "I'll go first with Atlas," Emma decided. "If we find a way through to level 3, I'll signal you." Krell'Thar watched as Emma and Atlas disappeared into the shaft. The human and dog moved as a single unit, their coordination so perfect it seemed almost telepathic. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as Krell'Thar waited in the oppressive darkness, listening to the ominous groans of the failing mine infrastructure. Finally, Emma's voice came through the communicator. "We found an opening to level 3. The shaft widens about 20 meters in. Follow my locator signal." Krell'Thar squeezed into the shaft, the confined space triggering ancient instincts that screamed for him to retreat to open air. Forcing down his panic, he pushed forward, using his natural bioluminescence to light the way. When he finally emerged into a partially collapsed tunnel, Emma and Atlas were already searching the debris. The air was thick with dust and toxic fumes, but Atlas worked methodically, his nose to the ground despite the protective mask covering his face. Suddenly, the dog froze, then began digging frantically at a pile of rubble. Emma immediately joined him. "Help me move these," she ordered, and Krell'Thar didn't hesitate, using his greater strength to shift the larger pieces of debris. Beneath the rubble lay a Velcarian, his silvery skin dulled with dust and marked with injuries. "Zepthar." "Cousin," Krell'Thar gasped, dropping to his knees beside the injured alien. Zepthar's eyes flickered open, all 4 focusing with difficulty. "Krell, how?" "The human and her animal found you," Krell'Thar explained, helping Emma check his cousin's injuries. "There were others," Zepthar whispered. "In the research lab. The blast doors sealed automatically when the collapse began." Emma consulted her schematic. "The lab should be 30 meters that way, but this tunnel is blocked." Atlas was already moving, circling restlessly near a partially collapsed side passage. "He's found another way," Emma said, gathering her equipment. "We need to hurry." The next tremor hit without warning, bringing down a shower of rocks and support beams. Emma threw herself over Atlas, shielding him with her body as debris rained down around them. When the dust cleared, Krell'Thar saw that Emma's leg was trapped beneath a fallen beam, blood seeping from her uniform. "Go," she gasped, pushing Atlas toward the side passage. "Find them, boy. Go." But Atlas refused to move, whining and pawing at the beam, pinning his partner. "Amazing," Krell'Thar murmured, watching the dog's distress. "He won't leave you." "He's trained to stay with me," Emma explained through gritted teeth, trying again to push Atlas away. "But there are people dying." "Go, Atlas. Search." The dog remained stubbornly by her side. Making a decision, Krell'Thar moved to the beam. "I will free you. Then we all continue." Using his species-enhanced strength, he lifted the beam just enough for Emma to pull her injured leg free. The human bit back a cry of pain as Krell'Thar examined the wound. "Broken," he diagnosed. "You cannot continue." "Watch me," Emma replied, accepting his help to stand. She leaned heavily on Krell'Thar as Atlas led them down the side passage. The research lab was sealed behind a pressure door, its control panel dark. Through a small observation window, they could see several figures moving inside. "The emergency systems are still functional," Emma observed. "They have air, but they're trapped." "Can we override the door?" Krell'Thar asked. Emma shook her head. Not without power. She tapped her communicator. Base, this is Reyes. We've located survivors in the research lab on level 3, but we need power to the emergency systems to extract them. Static was the only response. Too much interference, Emma said, sliding down the wall to rest her injured leg. We need another way. Atlas had been circling the area, sniffing intently. Now he stopped at an access panel near the floor, pawing at it insistently. Maintenance duct, Emma realized. Atlas, good boy. Krell'Thar helped her remove the panel, revealing a narrow service tunnel. This is too small for either of us, he observed. But not for Atlas, Emma said, already removing the dog's protective vest. She attached a small camera and light to his collar. It can get through to them. Let them know help is coming. Krell'Thar watched as Emma gave Atlas precise instructions, showing him what needed to be done. The dog listened with what could only be described as intelligent focus. Will he understand such complex commands? Krell'Thar asked doubtfully. He understands what matters, Emma replied. That people need help. With a final command of search Atlas, Emma sent the dog into the duct. Through the camera feed on her tablet, they watched as Atlas navigated the tight space, eventually emerging into the research lab. The trapped survivors, 2 Centaurians and an Andoran, reacted with surprise as the dog appeared. Atlas immediately went to work using his training to indicate that help was present. Through the camera, they saw the Andoran understand first, following Atlas back to the maintenance duct and calling to the others. They're too large for the duct, Krell'Thar observed. But now they know they're not alone, Emma said, and we can communicate through Atlas. Using the dog as a messenger, Emma was able to instruct the survivors on how to access the emergency manual override for the door, a system the non-human researchers hadn't been familiar with. As they worked, the mine continued to deteriorate around them. Another violent tremor shook the tunnel, bringing down part of the ceiling just meters away from where Emma and Krell'Thar waited. We're running out of time, Emma said, checking the structural integrity readings on her tablet. The support columns are failing throughout this level. At that moment, Atlas emerged from the duct, returning to Emma's side. Through the observation window, they could see the survivors working frantically on the manual override. It's stuck, Krell'Thar said, watching their efforts. The mechanism must be damaged. Emma studied the door. There's a secondary release on this side, but it requires simultaneous activation with the inside controls. She pointed to a recessed panel. If they push from inside while we pull from here. With your injury, you cannot apply sufficient force, Krell'Thar noted. Another tremor, stronger than before, rocked the tunnel. Warning lights flashed on Emma's tablet. Base to all personnel, a voice crackled through her communicator, finally breaking through the interference. Imminent structural failure detected. All rescue operations suspended. Evacuate immediately. Emma looked at Atlas, then at the trapped survivors, visible through the observation window. Their expressions showed they heard the evacuation order too and understood what it meant. We need to go, Krell'Thar said, though his voice lacked conviction. Emma stroked Atlas's head. I can't leave them. Krell'Thar studied her face, then looked at Atlas, who hadn't moved from her side despite the danger. Something fundamental shifted in the alien diplomat's understanding. Nor can I, he decided. Tell me what to do. Working together, they communicated a plan to the trapped researchers. While they prepared the external release, Krell'Thar turned to Emma. If this fails, it won't, she interrupted, because we have Atlas. On Emma's command, Atlas carried a specially prepared tool back through the duct to the survivors. With the dog's help, they synchronized their efforts, and with a grinding of metal, the pressure door finally slid open. The evacuation was a blur of activity. Krell'Thar carried Emma despite her protests, while Atlas guided the disoriented survivors through the maze of collapsing tunnels. The dog moved with unwavering confidence, choosing routes that seemed random to the others, but somehow always led away from danger. As they neared the main shaft, a deafening crack echoed through the tunnel. Before anyone could react, a massive support beam sheared away from the ceiling. Look out, Emma shouted, but there wasn't time to move. Atlas lunged forward, knocking Zevthar clear as the beam crashed down. The dog vanished beneath a cascade of rock and metal. At last, Emma's scream tore through the chaos, primal and raw. Without hesitation, she pushed free from Krell'Thar's grip, ignoring her injured leg as she clawed desperately at the debris. Get them out, she ordered the others. Go. I will not leave you, Krell'Thar said firmly, joining her efforts to move the rubble. The Andoran researchers stepped forward. Neither will we. Working together, they lifted the fallen beam. Beneath it lay Atlas, motionless and covered in dust, a gash visible on his side. Emma gathered the dog in her arms, her hands trembling as she checked for signs of life. For a terrible moment, everything stood still. Then Atlas's chest rose with a shallow breath, and he whimpered softly. He's alive, Emma whispered, relief breaking her voice. We need to move. Now, Krell'Thar carefully took Atlas from her arms. I will carry him. You lean on Zevthar. The strange procession made their final push toward the surface, racing against the mine's death throes. They emerged into blinding daylight just as a final catastrophic collapse sealed the tunnel behind them. Emergency workers rushed to meet them, medical teams immediately taking charge of the injured. As they tried to separate Emma from Atlas, she resisted fiercely. He stays with me, she insisted. The veterinary specialist stepped forward. Sergeant, I need to treat him immediately. You'll be right next to each other, I promise. In the makeshift medical tent, Emma lay on a stretcher beside Atlas as both received treatment. The dog's injuries were serious but not life-threatening, a miracle given the force of the impact. Krell'Thar approached slowly, his skin now a subdued shade of blue that Emma hadn't seen before. Your leg will heal well, he said, gesturing to where the medical nanites were already repairing her broken bone. And your, Atlas, will recover fully. Thank you, Emma said simply, for helping us. No, Krell'Thar replied, his voice unusually gentle. It is I who must thank you. And him? He carefully extended a hand toward Atlas, who lifted his head weakly, and to the surprise of both Emma and Krell'Thar lifted the alien's fingers. He remembers you helped save me, Emma explained. Such memory indicates genuine intelligence, Krell'Thar mused. Not sentience as my people define it, perhaps, but something equally valuable. 3 weeks later, Dr. Chen stood in the observation room at the Interspecies Cultural Exchange Center, watching through one-way glass as Ambassador Krell'Thar addressed a group of newly arrived Velcarian diplomats. The humans' relationship with their canine companions is not, as I once believed, a primitive emotional indulgence, the ambassador was saying. It is, rather, one of the most sophisticated interspecies partnerships in the known galaxy. On the floor beside him sat a small, three-legged creature with iridescent scales, a Protean lizard hound, native to a moon in the Velcarian system, but apparently abandoned on Earth by a previous diplomatic mission. Rescuing abandoned animals is another human custom I have come to appreciate, Krell'Thar continued, reaching down to stroke the creature's head. Nova here was considered defective by my predecessor due to her missing limb. The humans would say she simply needed the right partner. The door to the observation room opened and Emma entered, Atlas at her side. Though the dog still moved with slight stiffness from his injuries, his eyes were bright and alert. He immediately went to Maya, greeting her with a familiar nudge. Looks like the ambassador has become a convert, Emma observed, watching Krell'Thar demonstrate how he taught Nova to alert him when his stress hormones reached dangerous levels. Maya smiled. More than that, the Velcarian High Council has approved his proposal for an interspecies therapy animal program. They're even talking about adapting some of our search and rescue protocols for their colony on Titan. Who would have thought? Emma mused, scratching Atlas behind the ears. All it took was one stubborn dog refusing to leave people behind. Through the glass, they watched as Krell'Thar's frills extended with pride and Nova performed a complex task. No, Maya corrected gently. All it took was seeing what happens when you threaten someone a dog loves and what happens when that dog loves you back. Atlas looked up at Emma, his brown eyes somehow conveying everything that needed to be said. Outside, a transport was landing, carrying the latest group of alien dignitaries to learn about Earth's unique interspecies relationships. Among them was a Rigelian ambassador who had recently dismissed humans as sentimentally compromised for their animal partnerships. Emma smiled. Atlas would have something to say about that. So would Ambassador Krell'Thar of the Velcarian Empire, who now understood that sometimes the strongest bonds in the universe were not those forged by technology or even shared sentience, but by the simple, profound connection between different species who chose to protect each other. Not because it was logical, not because it was efficient, but because it was right.